All right. How many of you think it's obvious that the combination of Vivek and Trump is a little bit magical? It's a little bit magical. Do you know what else is magical? If you throw Elon Musk into the mix. Now, who do these three people remind you of? Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Donald Trump. I'll tell you what they remind me of. Elon Musk reminds me of Ben Franklin. Vivek reminds me of Thomas Jefferson. And Trump reminds me of George Washington. You see it, right? George Washington fought the impossible fight despite incredible physical risk. Trump, impossible odds, physical risk, and also financial ruin as a risk. That is some serious George Washington business. The Ben Franklin comparison to Musk, I think, is obvious. Ben Franklin wasn't just about inventing stuff. He was so smart that the other people who were founders said, we should probably listen to this Ben Franklin guy because look at the other stuff he's doing. If he could do that stuff, maybe we should listen to him. So the Ben Franklin, Elon Musk comparison, I think, is perfect. And then Thomas Jefferson was in my opinion, the most verbally gifted of the founders. And also more of an entrepreneur. So he was an entrepreneur, made the Louisiana Purchase, did a bunch of smart things, but especially as an author. And Vivek he just maps to that perfectly, So here's what I think. I think that populism is a losing vector because populism seems to be something that the bad guys can turn into a bad thing. Here's a reframe I'd like to suggest. It doesn't feel like a coincidence that three of the most prominent of the founders of the country just reincarnated. Now, I don't believe in reincarnation in a literal sense, but in a political sense, and in what is happening in the simulation that we live in, and code reuse or something. I mean, it just feels like the founders just reformed. Now, there's a few founders missing, and I'll bet you can fill in the blanks. There was this one founder named John Adams, who some said had a very unpleasant and cantankerous personality. But the other thing was he was very uncompromising, especially about his free speech. Do you know what today is? Today's Independence Day. Today is the day I declared my own free speech, and I gave up my entire career to get it. Today's the day, February 22nd. So that's the day I said, I'm just going to say whatever I think is true. And I got to let the chips fall. Now, I didn't get canceled today. The cancellation took a few days for it to work through the system. I think the 24th was the cancellation day. I asked Grok because I couldn't remember. But today's the anniversary. Today is actually my Independence Day. This is when I became completely independent. And when I say independent, I mean even Republicans let me go after that. I didn't have any friends that day. But eventually, we could see the pattern. Do you remember who canceled me first? Well, the one that mattered was the Washington Post. So let's connect some dots. So I was one of the more effective voices for this thing they didn't like, this populist thing. And I got canceled by primarily the influential one was the Washington Post, which is rumored to be the CIA's primary vehicle for propaganda. Does that look like a coincidence? Do you know how many Republicans canceled me since then? Still zero. Not one. Not even black Republicans, black conservatives. Not one. No, many were offended. That's a different conversation. But no, they said free speech. They actually asked me to tell me more about them. Black Americans, the men, not the women. Well, actually the women too. Yeah, even Sonny Johnson invited me on. So yeah, even black women and black men, they generally said, tell us more about that. That's exactly the right thing. That's what I hope for. Yeah, tell us more about that opinion, because free speech is our only answer. The only way out is free speech, which we don't have at the moment. So the black conservatives saw that immediately. Whoa, let's add some free speech, maybe we can get somewhere. Subtracting free speech gets you nowhere, except where we are. Adding free speech usually works. It's usually a good play. And the black conservatives automatically went for the smart play, because what makes them black conservatives in the first place? They're keyed into what works. What makes a person successful? Well, being able to talk about things honestly is right at the top. And so the black conservatives tend to look at what works: education, staying out of jail, stay off drugs, start a family, free speech. And there it was. They had a philosophy that was self-correcting. They saw an anomaly in me. Whoa, what's he doing? That's not good. And then they said, what's the correction to that? Free speech. And then they tried to apply it, invited me on a number of entities that, I got to talk. However, we do need a few more founders. I would like to introduce a term to replace populism, because populism does look like chaos to other people. If you like your team and the other team says they're populist, you feel like that's a little chaotic. Hey, what's that going to give me? I don't know exactly where that takes me with this populism. But you know what you do know? You know what the founders of the country were about, don't you? So I think that populism should be retired. And I think we're in we're beyond the existential threat, because the republic is genuinely done. But we could use a refounding. We need a refounding. You liked the founding. Every single person watching this, you were fans of the original founders, or at least the concepts of them. The fact that they were slaves. Slave owners is a problem. But you liked the idea. You liked the Constitution. You liked the revolution. You liked the founders, their concepts. You don't have to like them as humans, but you liked their concepts. And those are the concepts which have now been largely destroyed by the blob, the intelligence blob. But just when things were the most dark, when hope was almost gone, you look around and you see that the founders are reborn. And that it couldn't be more obvious. The weird part about it is you don't have to stretch. It's no stretch to say Elon Musk is our Ben Franklin, is it? Is that hyperbole? Not even a little bit. Is it a stretch to say Vivek reminds you of Thomas Jefferson? Not even a little bit. No. Is it a mistake to say that Trump reminds you of George Washington, taking the impossible fight, impossible odds, and the personal risk, which is just insane, and making it work? You see it. You see it. And let me offer that if you need somebody with a cantankerous, unpleasant, uncompromising personality who isn't going to settle for not having free speech, I volunteer. Now, we're going to need a lot more founder energy. And let's not focus on individuals. It would be a mistake to say that the individuals are the story. It's really the energy. And I believe that the founder's energy is somehow reemerged. And I'm just puzzled by it. I mean, it's one of those things that makes you think you're really living in some kind of a simulation. Because how in the world could we need the founders' energy so much, and there they are? How is that a coincidence? Yeah, how is that a coincidence? So I would suggest to you that while it looks like it's the darkest period in American history, and in some ways you could make that case, I would like to suggest to you that it's always the darkest before the dawn.